going to be talking about Twitter tonight and composing a more accessible tweet. But I'd also like to talk about, because we all use so many different social media tools. There's Twitter, there's Instagram, there's LinkedIn, there's Facebook, there's Tumblr, Google+. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on and on. So these are actually some things that you can do in any of your social media posts that will help make your social media more accessible for the people that are subscribing to your social media feeds. So the first is to use plain language. And by plain language, especially in education, we tend to like our acronyms. And as much as possible, if we can spell out what those acronyms are, you know, if you're in a Twitter chat, for example, spelling out the acronym in the beginning of the conversation, and then you can use the acronym later on in the conversation. But really trying to keep our language simple so that everybody can understand what we're saying, and everybody can, and the screen reader doesn't have to read a whole lot of acronyms in our posts. The next one is to use Camel Case in our hashtags if we have multiple words in our hashtags. And if you're not familiar with what Camel Case is, if you think of a camel has humps. And those are the capital letters within the Camel Case word. So this word right here, Camel Case, I actually did in Camel Case, just to give you an example. But it actually helps by doing that. Like, for example, if you have a multiple word hashtag like social media, for example, you would capitalize the S and the M for social media. And that helps a screen reader identify that there are different words rather than just reading, you know, well, I guess social media would be read okay, but there are other ones that if you string a bunch of words together in hashtags, it can get really confusing for screen readers. But also, when we use our hashtags, we don't want to use too many of them because screen readers don't handle hashtags very well. But if we do want to use them, try to limit it to 3 or 4 at most. And if you don't integrate them into the post itself, like if I'm talking about social media, I use the word social media and I make that a hashtag that's integrating it, and I'll talk a little bit about that more later. We want to put those hashtags at the end so that when screen readers are reading the post, people can just stop the screen reader if there's a bunch of gobbledygook at the end. So that's my second tip. My third tip is image descriptions. So Facebook has actually started using it's not augmented, I'm blanking on the word right now. It's artificial intelligence, sorry. They've actually, yeah, thank you, Louise. They're using artificial intelligence to try to identify the content of images, and they're doing kind of automatic image descriptions, which is a great step forward. But it would be even better if they would let us write our own image descriptions, or at least have that option, so that, you know, instead of, you know, there was a press conference or something that I was watching at work about this, and they were saying, you know, it can't identify that it's pepperoni pizza, but it can identify that it's pizza. Well, if the fact that it's pepperoni pizza is important to the post, we want to be able to say that. So when we're doing posts, and we use images, which is so engaging for people. Images are really, really important in social media. We don't want to not use images, but we want to provide descriptions of those images. In things like Facebook and Instagram and Pinterest and things like that, you have a larger number of characters that you can use in the posts. So it's really easy to put an image description right in your post for your users. And especially with Instagram, your description could be, you know, go right along with the caption of your photo on Instagram. So that's really important to include those images, and it's especially important when we use text on images, because text on images can't be read by a screen reader. So and we want people who cannot see the image to also be able to know what's in that image. So I'll talk about that too. in terms of Twitter with our limited number of characters. Also, when we post videos, we want to make sure that those videos are captioned so that our hearing impaired and deaf users of social media can also participate in listening to the video or seeing what the content of the video. And that's really, that's pretty much as simple as going to the video and making sure that it's captioned. On YouTube, there's a lot of that's exactly right, Luis. Those with low literacy and English language learners absolutely benefit from captions. Actually, people without disabilities actually benefit from all of these things too, like Camelcase for hashtags. I forgot to mention that. Thank you for reminding me. It actually makes them easier for sighted people to read those hashtags as well, especially if it's a long string of words strung together in the hashtag. But yeah, captioned video, just make sure that it's captioned. And if you're posting your own videos, there's some great there's some great tools out there to help you caption. YouTube has built-in captioning tools that you can caption your own videos right in YouTube. But there's some other, and Facebook actually allows you to add captions to your videos as well. And there are other platforms that allow you to create captions. So lots of options out there. And then the last little tip is, so unfortunately in social media, we can't put text over our URLs. So we have to have naked URLs in social media. Most social media platforms haven't yet developed the ability to have meaningful text over the URL. So one thing that we can do is to use link shorteners when we post links to other resources. Now Twitter has a built-in link shortener. It'll just put a ... character at the end, but there's things like Bitly and tinyURL, and Google has a link shortener. There's vanity link shorteners out there that you can you can buy the web domain to have your own link shortener. Yes, that's exactly right, Diana. Follow Friday or just saying those are non-camel case. Yep, that's exactly right. So much easier to read. I am a big fan of camel case hashtags and camel case if you're going to if you're going to smush words together. So yeah, so link shorteners are a great way to cut down on the amount of gobbledygook that the screen readers have to read. And also it's a nice thing to put those links at the end of your post. So again, as soon as people who are using the screen readers hear that HTTP, they can just cut off the screen reader right then and know that they're not missing anything else at the end of your post.